What about the practical side of living your life and having the right kind of thoughts and the right kind of attitudes and the right kind of behaviors and the right kind of ministries? What about all those things? Well, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. What about all those things? They all fall into order when the word concerning Christ dwells in you richly. Colossians 3 says, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, and then out of that come all the behaviors, all the relationships, all the right responses, all the aspects of sanctification are driven by the word concerning Christ dwelling in you in its fullness and its richness. So as you take in the revealed truth concerning Christ, that becomes the dominating, driving motivation for all the behaviors. Jesus put it this way. Several statements that he made are recorded in John 14 in the upper room as he was talking to his disciples. And he said things like this: if you love me, you will keep my commandments. Pretty basic. He said this: he who has my commandments and keeps them, he is the one who loves me. He then said, if anyone loves me, he will keep my commandments. 3 times he says the same thing in a little bit different way. Obedience, keeping his commandments, is connected to loving. Behavior is connected to motivation. And motivation is loving Christ. And loving Christ is proportionate to what you know about him. The more of his glory that you see, the more you know, the more there is to love. The more you love, the more obedient you become. I was listening to several preachers last Sunday afternoon on the television, I suppose half a dozen of them, and they were all making suggestions about how people should react in life. One guy was talking about how to become the person that the person you want is looking for if you're single. And all kinds of suggestions about don't get physical with someone you're dating, get out of debt, all these PowerPoint preaching. Somebody said PowerPoint preaching is like smoking a big cigar. The only one enjoys it is the one who's doing it. But anyway, I endured it. And all kinds of instruction, on a practical level, was accurate, and this went on. And I was thinking to myself, why? I'm sitting there, I'm saying, why? Why? Why would I do that? And I turned to another preacher, and he was saying, this is what you need to do when you're in trouble, this is what you need to do, and that's what you need to do. And I kept asking myself, why? Why would these people do this? Because you said so? Because the story was funny? Because the illustration was clear? Why? You know, the preacher can make suggestions till he's blue in the face, and the preacher can pile up even the biblical commands as to how we ought to behave, but nothing happens unless there's an internal motivation. So what is that? It's loving Christ. And where does that come from? That comes from knowing Christ. And how do you get to know Christ? Through the Word of Christ dwelling in you richly, and that Word is that which is revealed in Holy Scripture, old and new. If we're a little overboard on Christ, you'll have to excuse us. We're just following the manual.